Now normally I don't do videos on film cameras on this channel, but a friend of mine had this Koni Omega Rapid M, and he hadn't used it for many years and was trying to remember how it worked. And I spent some time with it, and I think I've got it sussed, but if you're thinking about buying one of these, or you have one and you've forgotten how to use it, stick around and we'll have a look at that. I want to start out by saying that this camera system is a bit over-engineered in my opinion, making it more vulnerable to failure or breakage. It's also heavy in the hands, but then so are other medium format systems of that era. My friend's system comes with a standard 90mm as well as a 180mm telephoto lens. It uses a magazine which has an integral dark slide in the front, allowing the changing of films in mid-roll. Film holders attached to the back of the magazine. Shown installed on the back of the camera is the 220 holder, but a 120 holder is also available. He also purchased a teleconverter and a ground glass. The ground glass allows you to compose and focus on a scene accurately, rather than relying completely on the rangefinder eyepiece. Lenses are fairly easy to swap out on this. You just push up this lock button, and there's the lens. The 180mm lens is a little different to mount. You'll notice that there are these pins which go into the hole here. The focusing range is very limited with this lens, so actually to mount it, you have to align the other pins, these pins, into these holes, and then push this into the upper part. So once that's seated against the base, you then just push down on the lock and the lens is installed. Now, one of the differences between the 180mm telephoto and the 90mm standard lens is the range of focus. You'll notice that it comes to a hard stop here over a very limited range. So the telephoto lens, and I haven't verified this, must have a very shallow range over which it focuses. Aperture is set by the inner ring on all the lenses in this series. In this one you can see this 90mm lens goes from f3.5 up to f32. Now all the lenses that go onto this camera system have leaf shutters built in, so the actual shutter speed is set by this outer ring on each of the lenses. And there's also a setting for flash synchronization inside between the two rings here. And the port for attaching the flash is found at this position on each of the lenses. So the magazine incorporates a dark slide in the front, and simply, when you're ready to shoot, you pull the dark slide out. In order to remove or replace a magazine, you must remember, this is the dark slide, you must remember to have its handle pushed against the body. Then what you do is, to remove the magazine, turn this lock switch down and then give it a good pull, and out comes the magazine. And you replace the magazine just by inserting it into the left side, pushing it, and then turning the lock switch. In order to remove the film holder from the magazine, first push up this button, the door opens and reveals this lock switch. And we'll turn the lock switch to the O position to open, and away, out it comes. You can see we've just shot off a whole roll of film here. So in order to load the film holder back onto the magazine, align it with the magazine, and then turn the lock switch and close the door, and you're ready to roll. Once you've shot off a roll of film and want to reload, you'll get to the end of the roll and you'll see something like this pattern of 4 dots. And you just actuate the film advance plunger. You'll see 3 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, and then once more.
it'll say load. And now it's ready to load film. So in order to load a new film, what we have to do is take the old spool, the empty spool, and move it over to the take-up side. And then now, because, and this is just a fake roll, has no actual film in it, but you would want to take the black paper side facing upwards and put that into this side. And then what we're going to do is loop the paper through the take-up spool, and by hand turn the take-up spool. And now you see this double arrow here. Once that shows up here, then we're ready to go. Now I'm actually loading a 120 roll onto a 220 film holder, but this is just for demonstration purposes, obviously. So there's the double arrow, and we're ready to go. So once the film's loaded, we can now put the film holder back into the magazine, and you'll notice the dark slide, which is over here, is in place just for safety. So then we put the dark slide, the film holder rather, into position, lock it, and then we can now advance the film to frame number 1. So as you advance the film, you'll notice that the shutter, which is inside the lens, becomes cocked by the action of advancing the film, and it's ready to shoot. It's just to show you what happens when you're at the end of a roll. Now this is the 220 back, but if you had a 120 back, this mechanism would lock after frame 10 for the 120, but this is a 220 film holder. So you notice that this just flipped down, and it's now preventing me from advancing this any further. So in order to release that, you have to pull that lever up, that little button, and now it can advance to completely winding the film off of the spool. And here's an example of how you can use the ground glass to frame up a shot. It'll be upside down and backwards, but once you lock the shutter open in bulb mode, you can certainly see how your image frames up. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope I was able to help you if you managed to get hold of one of these. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you will.